Alright, welcome back to the channel. Y'all see the title of the video. I'm going to be talking about a few reasons why the WNBA must bring back the Eastern and Western Conference playoff format into the league. So, right now, as we know, the WNBA is following a regular seeded playoff format where the top 8 teams in the league, regardless of their conference, makes the playoffs. And they've been following this format since 2016. But in my opinion, with expansion growing in the league, even WNBA's commissioner, Kathy Ilgenberg, her mission is to have 16 teams in the WNBA by 2028. And with the league just having multiple teams spread out throughout the nation, bringing back the Eastern and Western Conference playoffs will have a geographical balance. And that is one of the main reasons why they should bring it back. It creates a more balanced schedule just by geographically grouping the teams, and that gives players a better chance to recover, rest their bodies, and not have the possibility to deal with travel fatigue. And that is the reason why the NBA, the WNBA's big brother, created this Eastern and Western Conference format. They divided the league into 2 different conferences to ensure that teams primarily play against opponents located near them, minimizing travel fatigue. And the governing body of the WNBA just felt that players won't give their best effort once they are, tired, and the matchups just won't be as competitive as possible. When the NBA very, very first started, that's why they created these 2 conferences. But yeah, playoff structure, it would just be better. The conference system allows for a more streamlined playoff format, with each conference having its own championship series. I love conference finals. I feel like teams are more competitive because it's the last round before going to the championship, and you want to be crowned as the best team in the East or the best team in the West, winning that conference championship. So it would be dope to for them to bring that back. And just like their NBA sibling, I think they should also implement a conference finals MVP award for the best player on the winning team. So this is truly just a better playoff system. Teams primarily play against opponents within their own conference, mostly anyways. So this just adds excitement to the league, and it creates rivalry in the postseason, which is another reason why I believe the WNBA should bring back the Eastern and Western Conference playoff format. Intensified rivalries. Teams within the same conference, they often develop a strong rivalry due to the frequency of playing each other multiple times throughout the regular season. And what I like about the WNBAs is I feel like they're starting to understand optics. You can just look at the Indiana Fever schedule. Look at who they are playing in their first game in the 2025 season. It's the Chicago Sky. And come on now, that is no coincidence. The WNBA know what they're doing. Injuries, Caitlin Clark are without a doubt the top 5 most popular players in the WNBA. And when you look at the games, when they played each other last season, the Sky and the Fever games were super intense. We saw what Kennedy Carter did to Caitlin, that truck from behind. And, hey, Caitlin's my favorite player. I'm a Fever fan. And I know Kennedy didn't just push her for no reason. They were definitely going back and forth. But and she definitely got under Kennedy's skin. But Caitlin's tough. She's a killer. So she got right back up and continued to play. But that's what I love. They were going back and forth, and that's what makes the game interesting. That's what people really want to see. That's what brings viewership. So imagine, for example, if the Fever and the Sky faced each other in the playoffs in the Eastern. Once they create this Eastern and Western Conference format into the league again. When the games truly matter and they're competing to go on to win a WNBA championship, the games are going to get even more intense, more physical, and it's going to be entertaining to watch. And also, imagine if the Las Vegas Aces played the Minnesota Lynx in a Western Conference Finals matchup. Nafisa Collier versus Aja Wilson. Two great teams overall. The games are going to be so good. Seeing those 2 great Western Conference teams playing each other in a conference finals matchup, or just facing each other in the Western Conference round, whether it's first round, second round, third round, the game is going to be amazing. And also, imagine if the Liberty and the Fever start to develop some type of rivalry, playing each other in multiple Eastern Conference playoff matchups. Sabrina versus Caitlin, arguably the best shooters in the league. And, the Connecticut Sun, you can't forget them. They're always close to making the finals. They're another great team. So just imagine them. They kind of have a rivalry with the New York Liberty already. The Connecticut Suns and the Liberty, they sort of have like some little mini rivalry going on. The games are always tough when they play each other anyways. So imagine if they're consistently playing each other in playoff matchups. I'm telling you, the league will truly benefit off of that. That's going to be must-see TV right there. Viewership is going to go through the roof. We can even just look at past conference rivalries in WNBA history. Look at the Fever, Minnesota Lynx. They have a bit of a rivalry, and it's a rivalry that didn't start when the league first started, but it grew over years. When the Mercury and the Lynx were facing each other in the conference finals multiple times throughout the early 2010s. Diana Taurasi and Maya Moore, they were going back and forth. Those battles were big, and even with the post players, Grinder and Sylvia, those matchups were intense. The energy in the games were really, really amazing. Even the Sparks and the Lynx had a little mini rivalry in the 2016, 2017 seasons. It was really massive because those were the best two teams in the league around that time. And even if you want to go back to the earlier years of the WNBA, Storm fans did not like Lisa Leslie, and Sparks fans did not like Lauren Jackson. That is arguably the best rivalry in WNBA history, Lisa Leslie and Lauren Jackson. Those matchups were intense. There's even a video on YouTube. You can look up Lisa Leslie and Lauren Jackson rivalry. It's really, really interesting. But again, people want to see that. We don't want to see people be buddy-buddy on the court all the time. We want to see intense matchups. The games are just better. And just look at the NBA. Most of their rivals are teams that are in the same conference. The Bulls and the Pistons in the late 80s to the early 90s. That is my favorite rivalry in NBA history. The games were tough defensively. You can feel the intensity in the game as if you were one of the players on the team, man. And the Bulls and Pistons look like they hated each other, even to this day. Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas don't even talk to each other. They don't really get along. Hopefully that changes because I love both of those players. But, yeah, that's what makes their matchups in games legendary and why people still talk about the Bulls versus the Pistons, the Bulls versus the Knicks. Years later, over 30 years later, people still talk about these games because everybody was tuning in, everybody was watching it, and you can just look up the views from back then. The viewership is through the roof. That's what people want to see, yo. If you want to look at an example today, we can just look at them in the modern era. Just look at the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. They played each other multiple times in the Eastern Conference Finals, and those are some of my favorite matchups from this modern era in the NBA. You look at the early 2010s, Celtics Big Four versus the Heat Big Three. Those games were real crazy. When Ray Allen left the Celtics and decided went to the Heat, I was surprised. That was crazy. And Kevin Garnett, it took him a while for him to talk to Ray Allen. It took him a while for him to get over that because we know Ray Allen hit that clutch shot, one of the clutchest shots in NBA history to help the Heat win the championship in 2013, hitting that three to force the game to go to Game 7. But, yeah, even all the way up to the 2020s, the Heat and Celtics played each other in the conference finals in 2020, 2022, and 2023. And it went to 7 games in 2022 and in 2023. I love those matchups. You can just look at the Western Conference rivalries in the early 2000s. Lakers versus the Kings. Those matchups were fierce, competitive. Everybody still talks about the 2002 Western Conference Finals, the legendary matchups, man. The Lakers and Spurs were a strong rivalry in the 2000s as well. But yeah, people want to see conference rivalries. Again, they play each other mostly, and they build that competitive spirit against each other. I know some people might bring up Lakers versus Celtics. That's an interconference rivalry, and that is the most popular rivalry in the league. But still, conference teams, they see each other and play each other more often. So there isn't that many interconference rivalries in the NBA. So my point is the WNBA can just create legendary rivalries and memorable playoff series that people will go on to talk about for years down the line once they implement the Eastern and Western Conference playoff format into the league again. So this past 2024 season, as we know, the WNBA playoffs had the top 8 teams, regardless of conference, seeded into a single-wide playoff bracket with a best-of-3 series in the first round, best-of-5 series in the semifinals, and then followed by a best-of-5 series in the finals. In 2025, they updated it. As you know, the first round will still be a best-of-3 series. The semifinals will remain a best-of-5, and the WNBA finals will now be a 7-game series. That is amazing. People want to see more games in the WNBA. That is why the WNBA regular season will expand from 40 games to 44 games. I love that. Again, the league is growing more than it ever did before, so it makes sense to have a bit more regular season games. And also, according to the business intelligence firm Morning Consults, the WNBA was the #1 fastest growing brand in 2024. That is epic, yo. This past season, the WNBA saw a breaking record of 54 million unique viewers across multiple platforms, including ABC, CBS, ESPN, Scripps, ION. The league is growing. These players are really changing the game. And as someone who always loved the WNBA, I love that people are finally tuning in to watch the W, and it's getting the recognition that it always deserved, man. It's amazing to see. So since the WNBA is going to follow that playoff format in the 2025 season, they should bring back the Eastern and Western Conference playoff format once the Eastern Conference in the WNBA gets to 8 teams, just like the Western Conference. Because, as we know, the WNBA has 13 teams now, 6 teams in the East, 7 in the West, with the Golden State Valkyries having their inaugural season in this upcoming 2025 year. Hence, adding a new team to the Western Conference, and they are going to get another team in the Western Conference 2026. It's been confirmed that the WNBA will have a team in Portland again. That is dope. There was a team in Portland that existed in the WNBA from 2000 to 2002, but it hasn't been confirmed if they will be called the Portland Fire again. That was their name, and their best player was Jackie Stiles. If you never heard of her, please look her up. She's one of the coldest players I've ever seen. She was a true bucket, a walking bucket, a great scorer. But yeah, they're going to get a team in Portland, so they're going to have a lot of teams in the West. And it's been confirmed that we're going to get an Eastern Conference team. So Toronto will have their inaugural season in the 2026 WNBA season. So we're going to get a new team in the East, only one that we know of so far. But who knows? The league might bring back the Detroit Shock. I know y'all remember them if you watch the WNBA. They were a team that existed from 98 to 2009, and they were the first team not named the Houston Comets or Los Angeles Sparks to win a WNBA championship when they won in the first title in 2003. They also went on to win a championship in 2006 and 2008. So they had a nice little dynasty. They were true contenders in the W before the team folded, unfortunately, in 2009. But I think it would be cool for them to bring that team back to add to the East, or they can also add the Orlando Miracle, because I feel like the league would definitely like to have a team in Florida. The Orlando Miracle, if you don't know, they were a team in the W that existed from 99 to 2002, and they later became the Connecticut Sun. once the team folded. It became the Connecticut Sun in 2003. But we shall see, man. We will see what's going to be the next city in the East Coast that gets a WNBA team. So my suggestion for the playoff format in terms of, bringing back the Eastern and Western Conference format, I suggest that once the WNBA has 8 teams in each conference, they should have the top 6 teams in each conference play in the playoffs. So the WNBA should divide the 2 conferences, East and West, and the playoff feature should be 6 teams competing for the WNBA finals with the bracket seeded 1 through 6. And with that format, 2 teams in the East and 2 teams in the West will ultimately end up missing the playoffs because, again, it's going to be the top 6 teams in the East and the top 6 teams in the West playing against each other. And I believe the first round should be best of 3, the semifinals should be best of 5, and the conference finals should also be best of 5. That would be amazing. I'm telling you, it's going to create rivalries. People are going to want to tune into these games. Again, imagine the fever in the sky. Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Kenny Carter, Camilla, Kelsey Mitchell, they all playing against each other in the conference finals matchup to go to the WNBA finals. The games are going to be epic, I'm telling y'all. But, yeah, so that's just my suggestion for the WNBA playoffs. They should really bring back the Eastern and Western Conference format. It's just a better structure for the postseason. And hopefully they bring back the East versus West All-Star Game too. The last time they did that was 2017. And then the next season, that's when they switched to that team captain format, copying their NBA sibling. The NBA started to do that team captain format around that time, 2017, 2018. I personally don't like it. Hopefully the NBA goes back to East versus West All-Star games too, because they're doing this new format for next month All-Star game where it's going to be 4 separate teams competing against each other, and it's going to be a knockout round. It's some BS nonsense that nobody really cares for. Back then, the East versus West was competitive. It was players from different conferences going back and forth to see who was the better conference, which conference had the better players, and it was dope. We didn't need all these useless gimmicks to have a good All-Star game. I definitely missed those games, but hey, hopefully next season, the NBA and the WNBA goes back to the East versus West All-Star games. But yeah, you guys, tell me your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Do you agree with me that the WNBA should bring back the Eastern and Western Conference playoff format, or do you just prefer this regular seeded format with the top 8 teams in the league playing against each other? Do you prefer the regular seeded format, or do you prefer the Eastern and Western Conference playoff format? All right. Again, tell me your thoughts and opinions. Till next video.